Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Or Storm here coming at you guys. We got another Yu-Gi-Oh podcast today. Today we're going to be talking about the new Yu-Gi-Oh set leases. I've got Sean, Evan, and Liam all on board again. So say hello to everybody.
No.
No. Suck a dick, Scrub Storm. You suck.
But anyway, we're going to be talking about the set releases related to the year. So you guys can kind of get prepared and kind of know what's coming out and know what cards you might want to pick up now rather than get later and then be like, oh, butthurt that the card you needed has gone up to $40. So the first
I miss Maxi.
So the first set that we're talking about is Duelist Pack Rivalry of the Pharaohs. It's pretty close to release date. I believe it releases September, so it's actually like this week. And it's kind of along the lines of the Millennium Pack. I think there's only really a few cards you're going to really look for in the set. Like Lullaby of Obedience is I'm going to pull it up real quick. We're going to read and talk a little bit about it. So it says, pay 2,000 life points and declare one monster card name. Your opponent looks at their deck if you reveals one of the declared monsters to any, and then your opponent gets to choose whether you add it to your hand or special summon the monster. So what do you guys think about Lullaby of Obedience? And
it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that was my reaction when I first read the card, and then I thought about it.
But no, Anthony, think about this. All right, you're playing against Cosmos. All right, you literally ripped their one Dark Destroyer out of their deck. The deck no longer has power plays unless they grind for Dark Planet.
That's true. I mean, and I think it should have probably been a hard once per turn. I'm always like, when I see cards like all these other cards that have hard ones per turns, and then I see stuff like Ignister, I see stuff like Plushfire, I see stuff like Ariande, I'm like, what was Konami thinking? And I do think that the card has very, very good side deck potential for sure. I don't know if it's main deckable worthy, but it's definitely something to look out for. And it is not a hard once per turn, meaning you can, if your opponent has, say, 2 dark planets, you can just snatch the dark planets. So that's pretty good. It's basically just a better Mind Crush. It does what Mind Crush does, but on like a whole nother level in terms of cards.
What you do is when you open Take Tumberg, you lullaby for their Terror Top. That's all you gotta do, and then you win.
Yeah, right. I mean, I would probably just lullaby for their Takatomborg, or if I was playing against a deck running Brilliant Fusion, I would lullaby and call whatever Gem Knight they're running. I'd be like, oh, all my Brilliant Fusions are dead. Sorry. But there's a couple of legacy support. We are getting a Dark Sanctuary, which is neat for people who watch the original anime. But the only other card that stands out, I think, besides the random new silent monster support, is Tribute Burial. So this card cannot special summon for the rest of the turn. Once per turn, you can conduct a tribute summon that requires 2 tributes by banishing 1 monster from each graveyard instead of tributing. So it's pretty good in Monarchs for sure. Being able to, you can't get your Aether off, but with Aether at 1, like how many more times are you going to be resolving Aether on your turn anyways?
It definitely helps if you have return on the field because it still counts as a tribute summon.
Right, and that's what makes it so good. Is it triggers it still counts as a tribute summon, so you trigger return. You get, it can help you unbrick hands where you open mostly Monarchs, because the thing about Monarchs now is it's much harder. Like, you can't run as many of the vassals because, if you run too many, they're really vulnerable to cards like Effect Veiler and Strike. But it definitely bumps Monarchs a little bit. It does require a little bit of setup, but it's definitely not an unreasonable condition, especially in a deck like Monarchs where you can easily load up the graveyard with cards.
It might be like a 1-up.
Right.
What Anthony means is the card makes you go second, so it sucks.
Right. Like, yeah, like it's not as good as it's like a slower Stormforth, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But Monarchs are kind of a deck where at least I feel like this is good, and definitely a 2-of in the Domain variant for sure.
But Domain variant isn't going to exist anymore because it needs the extra deck to survive. Because isn't it basically Kura's like rank 6 spam dark draw engine?
Yeah,
Isn't that how the new deck works?
Just judging from playing against Domain variant, like Domain is still at 3, and the deck can still consistently set up that lock. Not as consistently, but enough to where I think it warrants, if your deck loses hard to it, it's definitely worth siding at least something to clear domain off the field. Then, of course, we have the 2 new structure decks we'll be getting this year. Of course, DDDs are coming tentatively scheduled for next year. I know, we're all crying we don't get our
Please
DDDs.
cry more.
Why,
Your tears
Konami?
fuel my joy.
But we're going to be getting the Yugi and Kaiba structure decks, I believe, in October at the beginning of the month.
And only the Kaiba structure deck is worth it.
Yeah, the Yugi structure deck, the main cards you're going to be looking for are the Magnet Warriors, but the Magnet Warriors are not really, they never really did anything in the OCG, and the most consistent, I quote-unquote, variant is like the Brilliant Fusion version, but of course, you know, you're going to draw those Obsidians every game or two, so it's decent, but it's like, you know, it's...
Not Obsidian, Lapis.
Yeah, well, in Magnet Warriors, you play Obsidian because it's a level 3 rock. So you can, if you do happen to draw it, you can still, you know, make Gorgonic Guardian, and like that's the
just play Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, but there's not like otherwise. There's mostly like a lot of the other cards in the deck, and then the Yugi structure deck are cards that Yugi played in the anime. It's nothing really special, but and plus Magnet Warriors are missing Delta, and Delta is like that card that takes that like it's a jump promo, so we don't know when we're going to get it. So
just like Crimson Fox.
Yeah, like Crimson Fox. Delta is a jump promo, and it's a really important card for the archetype. So until it gets that, it's not even nearly going to be. I'd say it's a playable deck, but definitely not viable without Delta. And then of course the Kaiba structure deck, and the main reason this is they exist because ABCs are a deck that has pretty much been topping in the OCG since release. If you guys listening to this are unfamiliar with the deck, it is something you definitely need to know. If you guys
are scrubs.
Yeah, you probably don't. You're scrubber. You don't like. I don't want to be, but ABC Dragon Buster is an incredible card, and its summoning condition is absolutely obnoxious. Being able to banish fusion materials from the graveyard and from the field to contact fuse is just, it's dumb design, and all the materials to summon it float. And not only can it banish during your opponent's turn, and it can also tag out like a Ritual Beast monster. Like, it's...
Oh god, I hate that about Ritual Beast so much.
Contact,
and I feel like such a degenerate.
Like, and on top of being able to contact on your turn, it can bring everything back and then trigger the field spell. So like, the main thing I have noticed, at least looking at the OCG list, is that they also play a lot of traps. That's what makes the deck so good, is that it can make big boards and back it up with traps like Solemn Strike and Anti-Spell Fragrance. Some of the OCG builds at first were running the Galaxy Transmodify engine, but it's not very consistent, and it's just ABC players in the OCG just figured play a lot of traps. It works better that way, and it does. But definitely, if you do not have Ghost Reapers or Imperial Iron Walls in your side deck, you are going to have a bad time against ABCs for sure.
Artifact Lancia.
Lancia is another card. I'm currently citing that in Cyber Angels because Ben 10 searches it. Ben 10 broken. Then of course the big release we are getting later this year is an Invasion of Venom. I think a lot of people, or Invasion Vengeance, I think it's known as in the TCG. It's a very interesting set. They concluded a lot. It's a lot like it's basically what they did with Secrets of Eternity, but it's on like a whole nother level. Because like there's relevant support for almost, it's not just that they're giving a lot of deck support, they're giving decks good support, like support that they need, and that's one of the things I really like about this set.
Where's my Infernoid support, Konami? Where the fuck is it?
Where's what?
It's called the Sengen errata.
Infernoid support.
I know like hopefully we'll get that in Raging Tempest, but so some of the key cards I think that from this set that you really need to keep an eye on. Treat Toad is a card that I definitely think you need to know it exists, because you are going to see a lot of Treat Toads when this card comes out. It's a rare in the OCG, but much like Archfiend Eccentric, I don't expect it to be a rare when we get it. I expect it to be a secret rare. It's a Frog Exceed monster that basically, during your standby phase, you can detach material and then special summon Frog monster from your deck, except Frog the Jam. But once per turn, you can when your opponent activates any spell, trap, or monster effect, you can send an Aqua type monster from your hand or on your field of the graveyard, negate it, and then you get to set that card Then on top of that, whenever it goes to graveyard, it can replace itself, which is just it's an absurd card, like with the type of effects it has. Even Dante is like when Dante goes to grave, it can't recycle itself. And on top
Don't
of
forget
that, you can
Dimension
bring it out
Barrier.
with Bahamut Shark. So it's definitely a card that you expect to see a lot of Treat Toad Turbo decks running around when this set comes out.
Remind me what the summoning requirements are.
2 level 2 Aqua
2
monsters.
level 2 Aqua.
It doesn't
so then those Paleozoic cards can make it, can't they?
Yes, Paleozoics can make it, and in a lot of the most popular Treat Toad variants in the OCG play a very mini small frog engine, and they play Card Demise and all the Paleozoic traps. It's basically like how the deck looks, and we are more than likely going to be getting the second wave of Paleozoics in this set as well. So that's definitely something that
yes,
you need to know it exists, because that deck is going to be a thing and it's going to annoy you.
All right.
We are getting another Cyber Angel monster, but I'm even playing Cyber Angels. Vishnu is a good card, but it's not something I know. It's something that would be a one of at best. It has a really good effect, but I don't know if it's going to see a ton of play. Of course, the cover card is Star Venom Fusion Dragon. I think the card is good but outside of something like Moonlights, there's not a lot of really effective ways to summon it.
Super Poly at 2.
Yeah, in the OCG they have Super Poly, so like they can actually go and use it in the more effective. But like, it's a good card because it can steal monster. It can copy monster effects from like something like Crystal Wing, for example, which is pretty neat. That like it can like it's a decent card. I don't think it's something that's like that. And if you can summon it, you can kind of just throw it in the extra deck, at least in the case of Moonlights. And then let me go back. I thought I just had the set list up. I don't know where it went. But the other thing we are getting in this set, we are getting Cristrons, which are a new synchro archetype. I haven't really delved too much into Cristrons, but they seem like a pretty neat synchro based archetype. I know their boss monster like banishes all spell cards your opponent controls. I believe I'm not mistaken.
And traps.
And traps, like it banishes all spells and traps, and it's a pretty obnoxious card and
from graveyard too.
Yeah, it's a when I remember reading it, it's not the easiest card to go into, but if you go into it, it's a pretty good power play and for sure. So I think it's just neat that Konami's still supporting the synchro theme for sure. So it's one of the fact that they're still like giving us synchro cards is pretty nice. All right, and then Dragon
Time
Corp.
for Dimension Barrier.
Oh, Dimension Barrier is probably like the #1 card we need to talk about because you are going to see this card, and it's probably if you can get this card cheap when the set releases, do it because it's going to more than likely be the next $100 secret rare. So if you don't know what Dimension Barrier does, we have it there. Here it says declare one monster card type, Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, XE, or Pendulum. That's the key thing. It does hit pendulums. This turn, neither player can special summon monsters of declared type, and all those monsters face up on the field are negated. This is a pretty... if you think about the usage this card has, why would you not... Like, a lot of the OCG lists not only main this, they even... Some of them... A lot of them... All of them probably would side this. This is like a mandatory side deck card no matter what. Some of the OCG lists even main it. And depending on the format, I can't really see a downside to main decking this card. It's an incredible card because, especially nowadays how Yu-Gi-Oh is so fast paced, this card can win you a game on its own. So it's definitely going to be the next like $100 secret rare that you need to, if you can get it for cheap, you pick it up for sure. We are getting new Yang. We are getting some new Yang Zing support. It's pretty good support for Yang Zings. Like it fits. Dinglong is a pretty good card. But Dinglong is a pretty. I think we're getting another wave of Cardian support as well. From what I remember reading them carefully, they're non-targeting removal, which is always good. I think one of them pops a spell without targeting on summon, and the other one pops.
Enjoy. Goddamn.
And the other one pops. I love that. I love that guy in the anime. What else? The other thing. especially looking at the OCG where Metal Foes are still are one of the better decks over there. After getting the Invasion of Venom set over there, Metal Foes are getting an amazing wave of support in this set. They're getting a Scarm that when it's popped, whether it's in the pen zone or wherever it's popped, basically on the end phase, it searches as a Metal Foe, and on top of everything else, they're getting a monster that they're getting a quick play fusion spell, like much like El Shaddoll.
And they're getting Thousand Eyes.
Yeah, and a Thousand Eyes that can like interact on your opponent's turn, which is amazing. And among the bunch, though, I think the card that really stood out to me is Metal Foes Mithril, and I'm gonna go over this card's effect a little more carefully because it's definitely a card. First, it's a level 6, which means you can easily make Utopia Beyond, even if you're not playing, even with Kieran at 1. It says you can target 2 Metal Foe cards in your graveyard and 1 card in the field. Shuffle the first targets into the deck, and if you do, return the second target to the hand. So it's like another Kieran, basically. And on top of that, it replaces all of your fusion spells and all your like combination and puts them back in the deck. So like you can basically like keep setting full Metal Foes fusion and keep setting up Alkist every single turn. And on top of that, if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon one face-up Metal Foe monster from your extra deck or one Metal Foe's Pendulum monster from your graveyard. So on top of the recycling effect, it also has a floating effect, which is pretty nice. Ask Burning Abyss floating is pretty nice. What else is in these sets?
Before we go on any further, the important thing to know is that when you take your opponent's monsters with the Thousand Eyes, you can use those monsters equipped as fusion materials.
Yeah, that is very important to note that like a lot of the Metal Foe fusions, such as Adamantite and Crimson Knight, have very like the newer fusions like I believe Alkest has to be a normal monster to make it. But, like say you jack a Pendulum monster with it, you can then make a 1-card fusion and use their Pendulum monster as a fusion material. That's definitely something that like I don't use that often, but it's definitely something you can do, and the fact that you can is pretty neat. There's a and the other thing, the only other like new archetype to look out for is the Chemical Beasts. Chemical Beasts they're basically like I think much like with Unions and ABCs, like Konami wanted to make them good, and they kind of did the same thing with Gemini's and the Chemical Beasts. They seem okay, but the main thing is they have a new field spell that makes that's generic, that can fit into other Gemini strategies. And I think it's neat to see that Konami did forget about Gemini. It's kind of like with the ABC's Union support. At least they're supporting it, It would be better than they could just not do it at all. So I'd rather have any support for anything. I believe, and that's almost towards the end. And the other 2 cards I definitely wanted to talk about. So remember, I don't think I was the only one here who was upset that Burning Abyss wasn't hit. Am I right? Or that Dante wasn't hit. But this card might be the reason why the deck wasn't hit. So this is Rank Up Magic launch of the Phantom Knights. This is the new rank up card for Phantom Knights, but it fits pretty decently in PK Fire. So basically, you can rank up any Dark Exceed monster with no materials and rank it up into a Dark Exceed monster 1 rank higher. So you can rank up a Break Sword into an Ophion, or and do it. The fact that Burning Abyss can now have Ophion on top of everything else is just dumb. And there's a lot of other.
Requiem Dragon is broken.
Oh, Requiem Dragon is like better than I hate to put it this far, but I think it's for the deck. It could be better than Crystal Wing. I believe. Don't remember quite the full effect, but I believe from what I remember about
target 1, negate attack. That monster becomes 0 attack. You gain the attack that it lost.
Yeah, and it not only does it negate the effect, it also, when it negates an effect, then it can special summon any Dark Exceed monster from your graveyard. So you can bring back a Dark Rebellion. You can detach a Dark Rebellion, bring it back, then rank it up into another Requiem. You can rank up. You can bring back a Break Sword, then make an Ophion main phase 2. It opens up a lot of nutty plays, and the fact that why would you not play it in PK Fire? It's such
it's searchable.
And that's the other thing to remember is that Boots and Cloak search it, because the way The way it's worded, it's the Phantom Knights card, so you can also search it with Cloak. So it's searchable by multiple Phantom Knight cards. The
worst part
main
is
other
that
card
you get
that
a free pop
definitely
with
think
Break Sword, and then you can Fog Blade your Break Sword back just to make the Ophion and a Dark Rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. And the other card I definitely wanted to bring up is Pot of Avidity. So this is a very obviously it's another pot card.
Oh God, my dick.
Pot of Avidity is it's the first, I believe if I'm not mistaken, it's the first and only quick play pot card. So it says target 3 banished monsters. Now we're going to get back to that and why that's important. Shuffle all 3 cards into the deck, then draw 1 card. You can only activate 1 per turn. So here's what I think people overlook with this card. It can shuffle
Malicious
opponents'
Turbo.
banished
Deck.
monsters back into their deck. So think about playing against Ritual Beasts, and they're doing all their Kanahawk, looping shenanigans. Well, you just go like Avidity. Well, they can't tag out anymore, and you've put all their resources back in the deck where it can't be used. It's pretty good, and it's used. And on top of that, this is more Dark Synchro support, which is a deck that we've all kind of like. It's a deck that you're already seeing topping at events. With the. I think it's just like the next evolution of Synchro Fusionist, where it's Omega loops your entire hand, basically. And and Avidity is just going to make that deck better because the deck relies a lot on malicious combos, and you can just put all your maliciouses back and then use them again, which is pretty obnoxious.
The funny part is, Dark Synchro has almost no easy out to Dora.
That's a lot of decks don't have outs to Dora. My Speedroids don't. I can't get over.
No. What they can do with Speedroids is you can activate Crystal Wing to negate something and then punch over Dora.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but like.
So you drop your Chinbara, you punch it, you negate it, and then it gains 2k.
Yeah, I still should have thought about that when I was thinking about it earlier. But the deck has Speedroids definitely, like the few times I was testing the deck, Dora definitely did give it trouble. Now speaking of Dark Synchro, I don't know if we're getting the set this year because it does not have a release date. But it's definitely a set I think you guys need to look out for because it has had an impact in the OCG because Dark Lords are still
November 18th for Destiny Soldiers.
Yeah. So Destiny Soldiers is coming out, and we're going to be getting it. Now, the main thing is the new you need to look out for in this set are the new Destiny Hero support cards. Now, most of them are pretty mediocre, but we're going to get to the ones that matter. One of them is definitely Drill Guy. So if you don't know what Drill Guy does, when it's normal summon or special summon, you can special summon another Destiny Hero from your hand that has less attack has the same or less than it. So no more dead drawing maliciouses. You can get the malicious out of your hand, which is pretty nice. And then what? Yeah.
Celestial.
Oh yeah, of course, Celestial.
That robot though.
Anyway, Destiny Hero Celestial is the other card that honestly I don't think they could have found a card. They couldn't have given this deck better support with this card for what Destiny Hero Synchro does. So the on-field effect, it can, no one cares. It's like you're never really going to use it. If you have no cards in your hand, you except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this and one Destiny Hero monster from your graveyard, then draw 2 cards. The fact that you can like dump your entire hand because that's what this deck does. If you want to get all your hand emptied, so you can Void Ogre lock your opponent. Then if they manage to still be alive on the following turn, you can just like draw a Pot of Greed, draw more cards. Why would this be bad at all in that deck? Like it fits the deck damn near perfectly. We are getting Abyss Actors in this set, but there's so many cards in Abyss Actors, and the script cards are decent, but the problem with it is your opponent has to be dumb enough to blind space your Abyss scripts in order for you to get those broken effects. Like the archetype needs something like Artifact Durandal to make sure you can get those effects off. That's honestly the problem with the archetype. It's good, but I don't know how good an archetype is if the best things you can do are summon Avian and Kirin, because a lot of Pendulum decks can do that. Then of course we have Dark Lords. Dark Lords they're a very interesting take on an old archetype. the biggest thing with Dark Lords is most of them are high level monsters. So like, you know, Ask Monarch players playing that is a potentially bricky situation. But their spells and traps are very, very good. They have a Monster Reborn. They have a Change of Heart that doesn't target. They have Rhoda for the archetype. But the kicker is that all the new Dark Lord monsters, by paying simply 1,000 life points, you can copy that spell or trap card's effect and then shuffle it into the deck, which is really good. What do you guys think about?
They have a Change of Heart that doesn't target.
Yeah, the fact it doesn't target is really good. I've a lot of the builds I've seen don't play a lot of the Change of Heart trap. They might play 2 max, but like being able to steal opponent's Dark Destroyer without targeting is pretty good. And the deck, I've noticed the deck doesn't have as many good first turn plays as other decks, and that is one of the problems with the deck, is that like it's a very go second. It wants to go first because it has to set all its traps and whatever. But if you don't, it's just very prone to bricking, at least from the builds I've seen. But you know, we do have Allure at 3, trade-in's a card, and I believe even in the OCG they had a Dark Lord train list that topped. So there's definitely flexibility with the archetype for sure.
I mean, ripping 18 cards out of your deck in one turn is pretty fucking satisfying.
Yeah.
You know?
It has a built-in Destiny draw, and like that's pretty good in and of itself. And I think the deck has definitely got potential to be tier 1.5 when it gets here for sure. No, who knows what the format will be like then, but it's definitely a contender to continue to top in the format going forward. So we're about to the end of this video, guys, but I kind of wanted to go around the horn for the last bit of the video. So what cards are you guys looking forward to in the remaining in the sets that are going to be coming out for the rest of the year? I'll start with Liam. Hello?
Is Liam still even alive?
I don't know.
I should be. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
You weren't talking for like most of this thing.
Yeah, this is okay.
Well, no, there didn't seem to be anything to say. I just want to see Sangan come back.
Yeah.
Sangan, or that's the cover card, the Venom Spawn.
Yeah.
That looks like fun. Something just fun to take it into zombies.
Yeah, that was something I did neglect. But Sangan is being printed in the with its errata, so at some point it is coming off. Yes, you can't use the monster you've searched off of Sangan, but you also have to remember that Sangan still searches a lot of incredible hand traps. Like, you can search Ghost Ogre with it. Like, there's a reason they designed the card the way they did. First, when I read the errata, I was like, why the hell are they errating this? It's already slow. And then, now that I realize that it searches such powerful hand traps, like you can search Ghost Reaper, for example, you kind of see why they errated it the way they did.
Or not even just hand traps. You can search almost every deck's play starters. Almost.
Yeah, I looked at the number a while back. I think Witch the Black Forest searches about 70% of monsters, some kind of absurdly high percentage. But Sangan searches about 50%. Like, if you look at the numbers, you can search almost half the monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh with Sangan. So it's still a very powerful searcher, if nothing else. What about you, Evan?
Guys, Elemental Hero Blast announced. Free my nigga Stratos. The second coming is coming, guys.
Stratos ain't ever coming back, boy. I know everyone wants to cry salty tears.
Dead memes are dead, just like Stratos.
Right.
Stratos was my nigga Harambe.
I don't know what Evan's just patiently waiting for his DDD structure deck.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I every time someone brings it up, I just get a little bit more convinced it's never going to happen.
I'm with that too.
1v1 me February.
Yeah. Yeah, considering that I understand why they released the Felgrand stuff instead, but I'm still salty. But for me, I think the card, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Heroes, but I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on Treat Toad and the new Phantom Knight cards, because I feel like Heroes are a deck like I like, but I've neglected because, well, Kaijus exist. Like, and the other reason I think I didn't play the deck was that Monarchs and Cosmos were still top tier, and the deck folds to the deck has such a awful Cosmo matchup that there wasn't really a reason to play the deck. But with Treat Toad coming out and with the Phantom Knight variant is definitely something I want to test. I might pick, if Break Swords stop costing an arm and a leg, I might pick that up.
Break Swords what, like $30 now?
Yeah, it went back up. Like I probably should have picked it. I honestly I had other expenses. I need other cards I was buying, so like I didn't have a chance to get my hands on it. But definitely, I would say in that build I'd have room for like 2 Break Swords, because the way the deck's built, like it's mostly rank 3s, and you play like Dark Law and like a few hero, like it's like hero minimalist. But it's like oh, I play 3 hero cards, but everything else is like Phantom Knights doing the heavy lifting. Other than that, I'm interested. The other thing I feel like I need to hold another discussion maybe next podcast, but definitely Dark Synchro is a deck I'm curious to see how it evolves over time, because it's only going to get better with Celestial and all this other support coming out. So anyway, guys, it comes about to the end of the podcast test today. So I'm glad all you guys tuned in again. We're going to be doing this again in 2 weeks. We'll probably be talking about the format a little bit more. We might bring up a little bit of discussion on talking about Omega and Ultima Azulkin. Maybe should they be limited or whatnot. So anyway, guys, as always,
be Ulti-print OTS Pack 3 Omega.
Ulti Omega.
If that
right,
happens,
guys?
I'm quitting the fucking game.
Oh, we really need an Ulti Omega though, really. so anyway, guys.
Yeah, it's the reprint everyone has been asking for.
Ulti Omega. All right.
So anyway, guys, as always, thank you guys for watching today. So we're gonna have a podcast again in a couple weeks. So tune in then. As always, and thank you guys for watching. So Storm signing out.